Thank you. Eiji!
You're quite the success. You're a bona fide best-selling mystery writer now, Haruka. Oh, here.
We couldn't have done it without your help, Eiji. Thank you.
It's nothing.
You should have told me you were coming. You didn't have to wait in line. Did you really come here for my autograph? Or are you here to see Akari?
No, it's not like that.
Huh?
I mean, let's just say I wanted to see the both of you. Actually, I have a favor to ask of you.
A favor?
Yeah. There's a once-in-a-century succession at my family home. And I was hoping you could get some information for me.
Your family home? You mean that grand estate at the foot of Mount Fuji?
That's right. My family has spent many years on medical research. In particular, how to stop the aging process. It's embarrassing, but I had a huge fight with my father that ended with me leaving the family. And that's why I want you to do some investigating, while pretending to write a feature story.
What are we investigating?
The so-called fruit of youth. It's been passed down for generations in my family and a recently unearthed skeleton.
At 3 p.m. yesterday, the police were informed that skeletal remains had been found at an estate in Tenmamura, Fujimine County, Shizuoka. The remains, of indeterminate age and gender, were buried under a large cherry tree. The police are trying to establish the identity of the deceased.
Who'd have thought? E.g., a literary consultant.
Yes. Haruka here writes mystery novels, and he makes sure that all the science is sound.
So, does he come up with the crime tricks too?
No, I devised them myself.
That's amazing. I read mysteries sometimes, but I never know who the culprit is. Is there some secret to figuring them out?
Well, it sounds obvious, but every story contains a mystery. And there will always be clues to help solve that mystery. Just try to connect these clues, and somehow you'll arrive at a hypothesis.
Connect the clues to the mystery.
Yes. Every story has a mystery, as well as clues to help solve that mystery. In this cognitive space, I fit the mystery and clues together like a puzzle, come up with a hypothesis, and build a connected path of logic.
And I'm here to help with the reasoning, huh?
Yes, but remember, you're just an image of Eiji inside my head.
Well, then,
Let's give it a shot. something like that.
I see.
Connect the clues to the mystery and form a hypothesis. That's how you read a mystery novel.
Akari, you are an editor, right? How do you know E.G.?
I met him when we were looking for an advisor on scientific matters. We practically forced him to arrange today's session as well. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet us.
Ryoya insist on it. Please, make yourselves comfortable.
Thank you.
Oh, that looks very good on you.
It's been ages since I last wore a kimono.
You look so handsome in it.
She's right. I barely recognize you.
Well, I can't attend the cherry blossom ceremony in my regular clothes. It was all laid out for me, and most importantly...
What's most important? Let me guess. You wanted to look good for Akari?
Of course not.
All the same, I'm glad there was a spare kimono for him.
Whose kimono is it?
Actually, this kimono was made for me a long time ago.
Oh, we have guests. I'm sorry for intruding. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Sorry. Have we met?
Yoyoi's only been with us for 3 years. Or perhaps you know one another from before?
No. There's just a familiar scent in the air.
That's probably me. I'm wearing a perfume with citrus notes.
Now that you mention it, that does smell refreshing. Anyway, this is our live-in housekeeper, Yayoi. You wanted to see me?
Mr. Shijima asked me to gather the equipment for the cherry blossom ceremony, but I just can't find some of the items.
Let's look for them together, shall we? E.g., I will join you later. Everyone, please go on ahead to the Shijima cherry tree.
So, was that your mother, Eiji?
Or perhaps your stepmother?
How did you know?
Oh, well. It seemed like she didn't know you had your own kimono. A mother would definitely have known, and anyway, she's too young.
Very observant, Haruka.
Also, you were about to say something earlier, weren't you? Most importantly, my mother gave me this kimono. Is that what you were going to say?
Yoko is my father's second wife. They got married after I left the family.
I see. Well, she seems nice.
Yeah. I guess.
She was in the house when the skeleton was found, correct? I've got to ask her about that later.
Just remember, you're supposed to be writing about the ceremony. I can't imagine what my father would say if he finds out what I've asked you to do.
What? Is he that scary?
Well, you'll see when you meet him.
Sure.
Well then, let's go see the cherry tree.
Wow. So this is the Shijima cherry tree.
In bloom for the first time in 100 years.
The skeleton was found under this tree, right?
Yeah. Who killed and buried that sad soul here, I wonder?
Killed?
The skeleton's chest bones had marks that suggested a knife wound, apparently.
But then, shouldn't the police be investigating this?
My father's in a standoff with the police right now. He told them not to say anything until the remains were identified. But somehow, the story got leaked to the media. But the remains are nearly 100 years old, apparently, so the police have no reason to hurry. That's why I want to solve this mystery.
So what you want to know is... the killer from 100 years ago, right?
The identities of both the skeleton and the killer.
Say you do uncover the truth about this 100-year-old murder, then what?
It's of great importance to me, actually. I suspect that skeleton has something to do with the Shijima family's fruit of youth.
You've mentioned that fruit before. What is it?
More precisely, the Tokijiku no Kaku no Konomi. According to my mother, anyone who consumes this fruit will stop aging forever. It's mentioned in the Kojiki Chronicles. This fruit of youth has been passed down for generations in my family. Although I've never seen it, and my father won't tell me anything about it.
But if it's somewhere in that house, I'm going to find it and rewrite the future of medicine.
Eiji, you realize it's strange for a scientist to be saying all that, right?
But it isn't strange at all. Science offers countermeasures to aging.
Really?
The telomeres at the ends of the human chromosome determines how many times a cell can divide. They're like game tokens, and aging is what happens when tokens get spent. But some forms of life have an endless supply of these tokens.
Endless?
Yeah. Cancer cells, for example. They're able to multiply infinitely because their telomeres constantly repair themselves. In effect, they're ageless. That's why it isn't totally bizarre that a fruit might contain components that stop aging.
A fruit that makes people ageless. And it's called the, Tokijiku no.
Tokijiku's fine.
What does this Tokijiku have to do with our skeleton?
I found an account of a murder committed 100 years ago, and it mentions the Tokijiku. Based on the proximity and dates, that skeleton might just be related to this case.
A murder?
I don't know the details, but the Shijima family history is full of unsolved cases, unnatural deaths, that sort of thing. Please, Haruka, I want to know the Tokijiku's whereabouts and the truth behind my family's involvement in that skeleton. Will you help me?
I'd be glad to help. But where should I start?
I have just the reading material for you.
Reading material?
And it's right up your...
Didn't think you'd be the first one here.
Long time no see, Eiji.
You really think you can just waltz back in here and interfere with the family's succession?
You're Haruka Kagami, aren't you? Author of the Detective Makoto Nishimari series.
You know about it?
Of course. Look, Kazunaga. She created Makoto Nishimari. You know, with the cool catchphrase, the path of logic lines up.
Never heard of it.
This is Haruka Kagami, a writer, and her editor, Akari Yamase. My older brother, Kazunaga, and my younger brother, Mitsunori.
Nice to meet you. Just wondering, what brings you two here?
Haruka's writing a feature story.
About the skeleton under the cherry tree. I bet a mystery writer like you can't get enough.
I don't need to play nice with him. I'm dying to know more is the answer you're looking for, yes?
Given your expertise, why don't you try figuring it out yourself? The identity of that skeleton, I mean. Then you can proclaim the path of logic lines up.
Of course. I'll look into it.
Thank you for having us.
Eiji, long time no see.
Dad, you're looking well.
You look terrible in a kimono.
Then it's good that I'll never have to wear one for work.
Not that you look any better in a lab coat, mind you. After leaving the family, what exactly have you been researching?
That's none of your business.
So be it. Welcome. I am Ryoe Shijima. And you must be the best-selling writer.
Yes. I'm indebted to Eiji for all his help.
So you're interested in our cherry blossom ceremony? This ceremony is an important family tradition, held once every 100 years. Feel free to take part and ask questions, but I ask you not to interfere. We don't usually let outsiders attend, after all.
We understand. Thank you. I promise we won't cause any inconvenience.
To be honest, that skeleton has attracted a lot of unwanted media attention. Such a nuisance. If this story of yours can help clarify matters, we'd be very grateful.
Who's that?
Oh, that's our gardener, Takehiko Kusakari. He's looked after this cherry tree for us for many years.
Excellent work. You should be proud, Kusakari.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Then let us begin.
About Ryoe. How much does he know about me?
What do you mean?
Something he said makes me think that... I think whatever he knows about me comes from reading the interview. He said that AG didn't look good in a lab coat. He must have seen the picture of AG in that interview.
Of course he did. I sent it to him in advance, after all. And I also told him about you, Haruka Kagami, a best-selling writer.
You didn't tell him I was a mystery writer?
Well, do you think he'd really let a pop fiction writer come in here to do a story about their centuries-old tradition?
I think he would. By the way, where did everyone go?
Oh, they're lighting incense at the altar.
What's the matter?
It's nothing. Just seem to have lost my phone strap. Maybe back at the cherry tree? I'll take a look later. Anyway, what do you make of everything so far?
The cherry blossom ceremony, this estate, the skeleton, and this Tokijiku business. Everything's a mystery. That reminds me, you mentioned some reading material?
Right. This could be our first clue, I think. Eiji found it, by the way.
Shinseinen, the very first magazine to publish at Ogawa Rampo.
You sure know your stuff. This issue, published nearly 100 years ago, contains the first part of a novel. The writer's name is Yoshino Shijima.
Shijima? As in one of Eiji's ancestors?
It was supposed to be a serial novel, but for some reason, the other parts were never published. And guess what? The Tokijiku appears in the story. This is the 100-year-old murder case that Eiji mentioned.
But it's fiction, right?
It's presented that way. Yes, but what's written here actually happened.
So, it's a true story?
If you read this, you'll learn about what happened to the Tokijiku in the Taisho era.
All right, I'll get started.
But there's just one problem.
Huh?
Some pages have holes in them, some are missing. It's not a complete story, I'm afraid.
You're right. This looks painful to read. It's full of archaic expressions, too.
But in your hands, it just might be solved.
Huh?
How about imagining the characters as people you know in real life? For example, the young protagonist. She wants to be a writer. That sounds very much like you, doesn't it?
Then what about this partner of hers, Josie? Who would this be?
A smart, somewhat aloof man. Does anyone come to mind?
doesn't seem right. Nah, that doesn't work. As if I had one. Agey, I guess.
What's important is how easy it is for your imagination. Focus on that.
Right. And as for the other characters...
You could try imagining them as people from the Shijima household.
The Shijima household? Of course, I'll give it a shot. We first met in the spring of 1922, the 11th year of the Taisho era. Industries languished after the end of the Great War, and disease ravaged the country once more. Many lives were lost during those dark days. But that was precisely why we pursued the joys and ambitions of life with even greater zeal. Democracy, the human right to liberty and equality. The flowers of modernity had bloomed, and they were growing out from the skulls of our dead. On that day, somewhere in Tokyo, at the residence of one Ginsaku Goto, a private auction was about to start. I heard rumors that the Tokijiku, the so-called fruit of youth, would be up for sale, and so I was on the lookout for a way in. All for the sake of that fruit.
Masanori! Setsu.
I'm very much looking forward to today, Ginsaku.
As am I, dear Setsu. Well, please come in. You too, Setsu.
Not here.
Interesting. I'm sorry.
Could I have that back, please?
Sorry. Excuse me. That's pig's blood, isn't it? What's it for? That's an awfully fancy bottle for pig's blood. We had pigs back home, you see. I remember it well, since my darling pigs kept getting turned into food.
You can tell from just one look.
Well...
This is a very precious item.
If so, maybe I can tag along. What are you gonna sell it as, huh? A panacea? Or dragon's blood, perhaps?
Who are you?
I'm Yoshino Shijima. You're taking part in that private auction, aren't you? I'd like to attend as well. But I heard that every participant has to bring some item related to eternal youth or immortality. She seems to be an exception, though.
Who?
The woman who went inside. I'm pretty sure she has a special relationship with the organizer. I guess people like her are welcome, too.
Why do you think that?
They touched each other discreetly, so the man beside them wouldn't notice. They seemed used to that. Wait! Don't go. You don't want me telling everyone that it's just pig's blood, do you?
What do you want from me?
Call me your companion or whatever. Just take me inside with you. Please!
Your reasoning is flawed. That woman is a legitimate participant.
Hey, wait!
Are you coming?
You let me in.
You've got a keen eye. It might come in handy.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome.
The name's Josui Kusaka. I heard about the auction from Setsu.
You knew she was? That's not fair.
Yes, she mentioned you. Josui, yes? Setsu's already inside. And this is?
She's my traveling companion. Please don't mind her.
I see. Well, then come in. Have some tea while we wait for the auction to start. Is something wrong?